United Kingdom were administering vaccines, several hundred of them per second. And we're now, if I look at the latest statistics, we are now at 30-odd million, which is an amazing effort. And it's going to continue. Although, oh, here he is. And although...
Good morning, Ammar.
Good morning, Jalf.
How you doing?
Yeah, wonderful. I was getting a bit worried.
No,
Really
I was just finding it a bit troublesome getting in with the connections and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But it's lovely to see you. And
Good to see you.
You look so well.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying. I think I've lost weight though, Ammar. I've lost 4 kilos in Ramadan.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well done.
But then I don't think I wasn't overweight or anything. I wasn't overweight, but it's always nice to lose weight, right?
I don't know. It depends on how and where and whether. Have you lost some around the midriff or not?
I think I've got a 4-pack.
Have you?
Yeah. So
excellent. I think I've got a 2-pack Shakur.
Yeah.
That's what I've got. Yeah, is the thing. But that's good. Well done. And do you feel better?
I do feel better. I've been training as well. I've been training throughout, so which is good. But obviously, training sessions have adapted a bit, doing more flexibility work as opposed to high energy stuff, because it's just trying to get through the 4 weeks with keeping some level of physicality in terms of training going, because I think no one should really stop. There shouldn't be an excuse that, it's Ramadan and let's not continue to train, because if you think about sportsmen and athletes, they are continuing intense training throughout and playing football. And I think it was the first ever time on the West Ham game that there was 2 Muslim players that they actually paused the goal kick for 2-3 seconds so that they could break their fast.
Sorry, right?
Yeah. So they just had some water on the touchline at that moment, which was quite a nice thing to do for them.
Which is amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's... you've certainly seen a lot more individuals and organizations look at coming out and supporting Ramadan.
I think it's not even that. I think it's just culturally respecting. This is not. It's not a new. It's not a new thing. It's been around for hundreds of years, 1,400 years. So I think it's just if as a country, as a nation, if we're kind of just being, I guess it's just respectful towards a particular religion and their needs for a particular moment. It doesn't take too much, just pausing for 2-3 seconds just to respect the fact that let them have a little bit of water. And I think it's such a lovely, poignant message. So I think that's how you would expect society, with all the work that's been done over the last 50, 60, 70 years, all the work that's been done via platforms such as ABC, you would have expected there to be kind of racial harmony in all areas and cultural understanding in so many more areas than what there is. And sometimes we feel that there's still a battle when it comes to race and religion and all of those things. And there really shouldn't be, especially with the comments and the initiatives that some of the sportsmen are taking because of the racial abuse that they get online, which if you think about it, in this climate, in this era, I mean, after all the things that have been done, that still exists. It's still baffling, isn't it?
It's so sad, to put it bluntly, and it's there is undoubtedly biases, prejudices, challenges that exist in communities everywhere. And there is undoubtedly racism that is inherent. The challenge is that I don't think enough of it is done, right? And it's good to see the club sort of going, right, we're not going to be on social media for 4 days. But in effect, right, why are people still comfortable and confident in being a keyboard warrior, hiding behind a keyboard and making horrific comments? Why do they feel that they're still able to do that? And do the platforms not have more of a responsibility in making sure that doesn't happen? The contra to that is, I certainly wouldn't ever want to prohibit or limit free speech.
Well,
I think look, if someone came to me and said, right, this is my view or this is my opinion, and whilst I may not agree with it, and even if it is, sort of, even if I then feel slightly aggrieved by that comment, is it wrong?
I think not. I think freedom of speech, it should be there. And if someone has a racist opinion, they should share it if they want to share it. My only thing that I would say to that, if they're going and opening false accounts and the accounts are not verified and they're hiding behind the keyboard warriors that are hiding behind a false facade and another name, that should be stamped out. But if an individual, if the next door neighbor wants to air his opinions and he's genuinely racist, then I think that should be aired personally. And we should look at how we tackle his viewpoint by challenging them, talking to them, getting them to understand. And even if they don't want to understand, and if someone is inherently racist, then so be it. That's him as an individual. If he keeps, but I think if he's not physically and emotionally, I mean, there's probably going to be physical and emotional distress. But what are the boundaries? Because I think the key to it all, freedom of speech must remain in its entirety. Because once that goes, you have a society that's not a true, open and honest society, is it? Everything, information becomes...
Well, and that then breeds the type of issues and challenges that we experience, because people then start getting pent up and bent up, and it's like, well, I can't speak about this, and these people have done that, and that person's done that. I think some of the challenges are systemic and systematic, Jalf, right? Mm-hmm. Because the way that even the press report things is biased.
Of course it is. No, they've got an agenda, haven't they? They've got a strategic agenda.
So every time a person who may or may not be a Muslim does something, the headline news is radical Islamist, or the headline news is Muslim killed or done that. Look, where you go, any level of terrorism, regardless of who it is or what it is, you do not see the same action or reaction or publication, right? Where people have other religious or other beliefs, right? You do not see the headline.
You can't be a Christian. You can't be a Christian terrorist, can you? Couldn't
possibly.
Or a Jewish terrorist, of course not. I mean, look, these are just wider discussions.
Of course they are, but anyway, it's I think you're right. I think it's the point was, it was a positive point in that it's great to see so many organizations. And I can like the Barclays, Ernst Young, all of these big corporates sort of encouraging their staff members, whether they are Muslim or not, to support fasting.
Yeah, they're doing that bit. And look,
experiences.
as a society, we just need to respect everyone's individuality and respect people's embrace different people. It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, gosh, you know, in the restaurants, I just love people from all different cultures, backgrounds, and I see them working homogeneously together, and I feel really proud because we have so many different people and we're smashing all the stereotypes. But then, you know what? There's never any racism. It's just not there. It's.
That's interesting, right? Only because do you think it's a generational thing as well?
Interestingly, Ammar, we're doing interviews at the moment. So we have a new restaurant general manager. She is like phenomenal. When I was recruiting, I wanted to find someone who was better than me. And that was a stipulation. I said, look, I'll only recruit managers that are better than me. And when I looked at her, spoke to her, she is a far superior restaurant manager than what I am. Now, she's doing interviews, and she's happened to interview about a 55-year-old Bengali man for a restaurant manager's position. And I was on the phone call, and I can hear this interview, and the heat and the voice is raising kind of minute by minute. And this gentleman just couldn't get his head around how this young female was basically potentially his boss, and he just started to be really aggressive in the actual interview, where we had to get Jane to interject, and he wasn't having it until I had to go and say, "Hold on, mate. You know, now are you going to listen?" And he kind of very quickly stormed out the restaurant. It was really poignant that how, yes, it probably is a generational thing, Ammar, to a certain extent, because people think that, well, I'm not taking instructions of a woman or a girl, or that stereotype is still there amongst a certain generation for sure.
Well, I genuinely believe that to be the case, that it's more our era that are more.
I think it's not our era. I think it's an era before our era, man.
Is it?
Maybe it's your era.
Okay.
I'm like dynamic, diverse, open-minded.
Listen, uncle. I remember getting called an uncle, and I'm thinking, what? Who they're talking to? You're going, well, clearly they've got something wrong. Listen, just call me bro or whatever you want to. But it's, I mean, look, it was, you know, what was interesting, right, Jalf, and this is a matter of fact, what was interesting was, in reality, our parents were far more tolerant, right, and far more patient, wrongly in every sense, with racism that they experienced. I mean, I remember sort of, you know, mum and dad in the 60s and 70s, like in certain places in London and places like that, you still had signs up saying no blacks, no ethnics, and no Irish.
Well, Irish as well.
Yeah. It was interesting.
This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, my goodness gracious.
That's you know, like a decade before we were born. You just think that's crazy, right?
Unbelievable.
It is crazy. So our parents were far more tolerant. We, having been born and brought up here, you know, we felt a bit aggrieved. It was like, well, I'm born here. I've said this many a time, I'm more British than a lot of British people here. In fact, I'm a commander of the British Empire, right?
Of course.
And I feel total affinity and comfortable and peace with the community here. But many a time, do I feel as if I'm as accepted as those around me. No, not at all. Is there other times, even now, where I feel as if I am inadvertently and advertently differently from local people? Yes, absolutely. And that's quite sad. But my point around the generation thing is if you look at our children and and the younger generations, they all just have always and just play and work and accept, and they're cosmopolitan and all of that. Yeah. I find it really, really hard to understand. And actually, I don't think. I mean, I did get some abuse at school, but in the main, it wasn't too bad. The abuse that I got more than anywhere else was primarily out of school, and from those individuals that I'd argue that are ignorant, because there isn't anyone who wouldn't accept medical support from an Asian or an ethnic doctor, would they? Right? There isn't anyone who wouldn't accept some blood from an Asian when they needed it. There isn't anyone who wouldn't accept, the support of an Asian optician or medical professional or ambulance person or a fire person. There isn't anyone who wouldn't jump in a taxi of an Asian. There isn't anyone who wouldn't get served some food from an Asian that I'm aware of. There isn't anyone who wouldn't utilize any of the services or the support or the business support programs from an Asian. There isn't anyone who wouldn't come along to our events. There isn't anyone who wouldn't come along and eat our food. So why are there people out there who then decide that all of a sudden they don't like Asian people?
Well, as we've done and as we'll do, we can close by saying that, we're always going to kind of challenge stereotypes. I'm always interested to speak to people. When we said that we would go and meet the Tommy. So we'd love to meet Tommy and just sit and talk to him, have dinner with him.
I'd love to. I actually revel. Genuinely, I get a real buzz of talking to people with different views. I enjoy it. It's part of humanity.
Of course.
It's anyway. So I was talking about vaccines and things, yeah, and in particular, the fact is, I had incorrectly stated earlier before you turned up that 30-odd million people had been given the vaccine. Actually, it's now 41.3 million people.
Really? Wow.
That is just incredible.
It is.
We should be so proud. And people fully vaccinated are 12.5 million. Percentage of the UK, 22.3. So nearly a quarter of the population, the whole population, has been vaccinated. And how good was the COVID vaccine minister, Jalf?
Oh, I mean, obviously the ministers are ministers for a reason, aren't they? I mean, so intelligent. The level of depth of knowledge and intelligence that he had was just immense.
No, but I don't necessarily get that from all of the other ministers. Yeah, and because I've engaged with Nadeem a few times now, and had roundtable events, had discussions with him on one-to-one basis, and because he was the business minister, and then became the vaccine COVID minister, and he's done such an incredible job. I think genuinely, I appreciate. I was very ingratiated towards him, and I was, said, well done, and thank you for all you've done. And parking politics aside, regardless of what your political persuasion is, I just think he's done an amazing job.
Well, the remit that he had was a very, very challenging one. And for him to fulfill it and, go to the length and breadth of the country and do it at such a fast pace, and having a full understanding of exactly where they are, I mean, in that level of detail is just immense.
I just think it's fantastic. Is what it is, and the key thing for me is sort of making sure that as many people continue to get the vaccine as they can. What's really reassuring, Jalf, is that the roadmap, the plan, it continues. And if you look at other countries, all of them have had to go into further lockdowns. Clearly, touch wood, whatever you want to say, whatever your beliefs are, it looks as if we're coming out of things. It looks as if
I hope so.
that they've got it right. It looks as if, gosh, there was on Sunday, and I appreciate there's always a lag. There was something like 1 death or no deaths.
Excellent. I mean, let's just hope that, we've got some really important dates ahead, haven't we? We've got a big date on the 17th. After that, we've got another date. Is it the 20th or the June date? When is the June date, Ammar? Is it the 22nd or the 27th? I can't remember the date in June. But if we're able to hit those 2 dates and have some kind of normality back then hey, what a year or what a year and a half it's been. But if we can get there on the 27th of June, I think everyone's just looking forward to it.
Oh, undoubtedly. So 21st of June.
21st of June.
So the actual roadmap was, from the 8th of March, people in England will see restrictions start to lift. Actually, Jeff, I didn't tell you. We went to Centre Parks last week.
Really? And how was that?
Amazing. It was incredible.
Lots of people there?
There was people there, but it wasn't. The week before, we'd taken the kids to South Shields,
right. Yeah.
And that was scary. That was so scary. I was really worried that if that's what people are doing, we're going to enter into another lockdown. It was ridiculous. People just simply, you would never have thought in a million years you were in a pandemic. It was that busy and that crammed. And I actually took some pictures because I was just horrified. Genuinely I was. And I walked around. I just put my mask on and I walked around like that. And that then meant people give me a bit of space. As in because I've found if you're wearing a face mask, it prompts people to think twice a little bit. Not everybody, but it still does. So yeah, I was really concerned. And then we didn't even know or realize it was a bank holiday, and we'd looked at, well, the wife is really good at this type of thing. She looked at, could we do something with the kids? It's just nice to do something. And she looked at Centre Parks and she thought that they're going to just ramp up the price, take advantage. I mean, Centre Parks isn't cheap any time, and you always have to save up lots of money to go there. And we imagined it to be like, sort of really, really costly. And it wasn't. It was really competitive. And we drove down last Friday. Traffic wasn't that bad. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. Got down there, and the way they'd done everything. Well, you're in your own place. You're in your own space. So everything was sort of in keeping with COVID rules.
Yeah.
All of that. And they'd organised, so you couldn't sit inside anywhere, naturally, but they had outdoor places to sit where you could feed the kids and, you know, buy things. And but the kids went horse riding, done activities, went on a boat, done pottery stuff, and all of the stuff that, I mean, if you think our 2-year-old she'd spent more than half of her life in a lockdown, right? More than half of her life. She hasn't gone to soft plays. She hasn't engaged with other kids. She's not done anything. So she was just like, oh my God. And our 8-year-old was equally, you know, like, this is like fantastic. And it was just so nice to get out and do something. So we were really, really fortunate, really grateful. And it was great fun, and came back sort of feeling as if, you know what it's like, you know, if you don't go somewhere, you're working all of the time, even on a weekend. On the weekends, or what am I going to do with the kids? And you're stressing about doing something with the kids, and the kids don't want to go for a walk. I mean, how many walks can you do with it? Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, it was amazing, and came back, and then bang, it's you know, bank holiday weeks are always interesting because you end up having to do more in a shorter period of time. So it's just been manic, absolutely manic. We've you know, we announced our International Space Station, submitted the plans for that at the airport. So 10,000 square foot International Space Station at the airport. Building that now.
Really?
Yeah. So that'll be built by this time next year, and we'll be in there. And then we're doing some trade events with Netherlands. So a week on Monday, we're helping organisations and individuals who want to set a presence up in Europe after Brexit. You know, we're supporting them. So, you know, if you wanted to take your brand into the Netherlands, and the Netherlands are an incredible place. You know, the ease of doing business, they're really friendly. Well, we've been to the Netherlands, haven't we?
Amazing.
We've been to
Amsterdam, man. Everyone said Amsterdam. It's a beautiful city, Amsterdam.
It's an incredible cultural venue with so many different cultures and cosmopolitan and all of that. It's amazing. We went to there was an amazing curry house there, wasn't it?
What do we say? Hotel Krosnoplonsky or something like that.
That was a cool hotel.
Yeah.
In the square. Yeah, it's
Amsterdam Tandoori we went to.
Yeah, it had an interesting name as well. But yeah, so we're doing that, and encouraging SME, so any business who wants to, because the government there is providing lots of support, you know, like all of the support. They've got like grants, they've got wraparound support, they'll give you all of the technical advice, they've got programs, so everything that and you know, one of the biggest growth enablers for businesses, and certainly right now, is internationalization. So looking at either how do you take your products, or if you've been impacted by Brexit, because lots of businesses they've stopped exporting and importing. A way around that is to set up a presence in the Netherlands, because you've still then got access to like 500 million people. You know, you've got from the Netherlands. It's a great place from the northeast, so you can fly straight there. The Utrecht region is one of the best regions there is. So yeah, we're doing a lot around that, and that's really interesting and exciting. And then generally and locally, we're providing lots of support to businesses. So digital innovation and internationalization. So that's good. Property-wise, that's really, really hard, still challenging, you know, very, very hard. And really waiting for students to start coming back to be honest. And until they do, it's going to be very challenging. And some of the trends that we're seeing generally is there's a big increase in self-employment, people setting up businesses. There's a big increase in certain sectors, so trades. And I'll tell you what's really interesting, Jalf. As a consequence of COVID, historically, if you wanted a good job, you had to look to go to London. But now, businesses across the UK, and in particular London, are going, you don't have to be here. And they're looking further afield. Good quality individuals are in such high demand for jobs. There are so many jobs out there for good quality individuals, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because it's the low-level, low-skilled jobs that appear to have taken the big hit, and the slightly more specialist or experienced or demanding type of jobs, there's an increase in them.
Well, it's really good. It's good for the North if they are able to do kind of jobs from home based in London and get a London salary. I think they'll probably look at the salaries and reduce that as well. But even so, it's just getting into those professions, isn't it? That you would ordinarily have to go and live in London for and spend those crazy rents and stuff. And the net kind of income that you do actually earn is so much less after the cost that you have to pay. But then, nothing beats that London experience, though, does it? Everyone should really experience London.
Absolutely not. And that's, as you say, nothing does. And then yesterday was the Super Thursday with the elections. Yeah. And so Doc Anand has done an incredible job. He's done one of the best jobs of an opposition within Newcastle. He came so close to winning a council seat in Gosford.
Really?
Yeah, and he stood for the Conservative Party. So he got like 1,000 and something, and the Lib Dem person who was already there type thing got 1,000 and something. Everybody else got 100 or 200.
Really? That's good. Good on him.
So that's really, really interesting. Sorry, I'm just looking at other results. So the Northumberland winners decided, so the Conservatives have gained a number of seats in Northumberland. The Newcastle has lost a number of seats. Actually, Labour's lost quite a lot of seats.
Well, Labour's lost. They are lost as a org. Then, I mean, Keir Starmer is not traditional Labour, is he? I mean, I think they're a bit confused.
Labour's unable to say what it stands for.
Yeah, and that's the whole problem. Yeah, that's a problem. And he's too much of a right-wing man, isn't he? So Labour's not traditionally, they're not. All the right-wing Labour, I mean, how many of those are still there? I don't know. But that's what you get from Mr. Starmer.
Yeah, it's well, it's a shame because one of the things that, regardless of your view of Jeremy Corbyn, he galvanised the young people, didn't he? And he stood for something specific, whether you agreed with it or not.
I think he was quite true to his outlook, wasn't he? And I think
he always remained consistent.
But then, he should have kept his values, but adapted them, and that's what they failed to do, and that's why they had they got absolutely hammered in the election. But even so, I mean, yeah, Labour, they need to really look at themselves. I don't think it's not traditionally a lot of the Asian families would vote Labour, but I think there's a big change. People are just not sure about them anymore at the moment. So.
Yeah. I'm surprised Conservatives didn't do better in Newcastle, to be honest. I'm really surprised. I'm intrigued. And then Hartlepool, which has never been anything other than Labour, was won by the Conservatives.
Wow.
So since the seat was created, 50 years ago, the Hartlepool seat has remained Labour, and it was won by nearly twice the vote of a Labour person.
Wow. It's just. But I mean, ultimately, the political platform, from what I've also spoken to one or two people, I think everyone's a bit lost because they think ultimately all parties are more or less of the same views. The opposition isn't really a huge opposition. There isn't really clear oppositions these days. So who do you vote for? You know, that's another issue I think that the politicians need to address.
Well, it's also, if you look at, for example, right, that because we do a lot of stuff in Tees Valley, we deliver a range of programs, we deliver a whole host of support, and have been involved in helping hundreds of businesses. And if you look at the mayor there, Ben Houchin, he's done an incredible cheerleading job of promoting the region. He's got 3 ports, he's got the ministries coming up there, he's created, he's took back the steel site, they've got like 40,000 jobs in the pipeline. He's really brought up the region, and the region, that part of the Tees Valley is doing so much better than the Northeast now, and we're on the verge and the cusp of Newcastle no longer being the capital of the Northeast.
Which is just it's just ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And all down to what? There was the other thing that they lost as well, didn't they, Ammar? What was it called? The big... they lost something really, I can't even remember what it's called. I mean, they lost out to some other region, didn't they?
Who? Newcastle?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Freeport?
Yeah, the Freeport. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
That's just
how can the city council leaders still be in their positions after losing something as significant as that, and no one challenged them, and they're not allowed to be challenged? It doesn't make any sense. And there's no resignations, which makes it even worse. What's happened to like pride and dignity these days?
It's crazy, isn't it? It is crazy. The maddest thing is, do you know who the mayor is in the North of Tyne?
Isn't it? Can't remember his name. I think I have heard of him. It's a Labour guy, isn't it? Skinny Labour guy with a beard. Yeah.
But does that not tell you something?
I don't think
if I say
only.
What?
I only knew because I think he popped into the ration, but otherwise, in terms of have I seen any work or know of any work that he's been involved in? Absolutely not.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because whereas the south of the region, he's everywhere, he's doing everything, he's brought the airport back, they've got connections, flights. I mean, potentially, Newcastle Airport will end up losing routes to Teesside Airport. Imagine if that happens. Imagine if Dubai goes to
Teesside. It's just unbelievable.
But that's potentially what can happen.
How can that happen?
So, Jalf, what's happening in the city centre?
Look, in obviously the retail is there, but I don't think the retail is flying on all cylinders at the moment. Judging by being in Phoenix and stuff, I mean, it's decent, but I think hospitality and leisure, look, I think it's such a difficult time for hospitality because the weather's been so bad that I mean, people can't just eat food in the rain, soggy chips. So if you think about it, the weather's had a significant impact on hospitality and leisure. I think the city centre, yes, there are people there, but it's nothing like, the vibrancy is not as it used to be, but hopefully from the 17th, it'll be a bit better. and hopefully, 4 or 5 weeks on from that, it'll resume to anything like that old normality. But overall, I think the culture in the city centre is very, very different, Ammar. I think if you go into the city centre now, let's say that you want to go into Phoenix for something. I mean, experience it and see how you feel. But I think you're not going to enjoy the experience because.
So we went into the city centre. We went into the city centre. Probably, well, a few weeks back, whenever it was, we went in, I took the kids in, and because it was like, let's go to Phoenix, let's buy something from a shop. Because once again, when was the last time that Zara had got our 2-year-old gone to a shop to buy a toy?
Yeah.
When did that happen? And it was, the fourth floor was dead. And this was a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the retail, the costs in retail to maintain and pay the bills and the rents and the rates and all of those costs for the city centre, even the business insurances, I think there's going to be huge challenges. I think everyone is just still, surviving on grants and surviving on loans because the revenue is certainly not there.
No. The costs are quite significant.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be. I personally still feel that the economic catastrophe, we haven't actually witnessed it yet.
No, absolutely not. I think undoubtedly there will be so many more repercussions. But what can we do?
I think we'll see it, we'll experience it, because it's gonna happen. But I think those that are a little bit in the know, a little bit savvy, you have to be mindful of that and make sure that your business plan is as weatherproof as possible for those type of scenarios. And I had a staff meeting yesterday with the management team, and I said that in our business plan, if we're not having a contingency plan for another lockdown, let's say in September and October, I think that would be very naive for us to think that, yes, everything's going to go back to normal from the 17th of May. And I think they were a little bit shocked that I made that point. And so, surely that's not going to happen. And I said, well, we hope that it's not going to happen, but you can't be 100% sure. And if you don't have the contingency plan in your business plan for the next 6 to 9 months, I just think that you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah. And that is undoubtedly one of the biggest issues and challenges, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the other big challenge that we're facing, because of the fact that we're in a pandemic, no one's ever actually, the impact of Brexit, it's kind of a sideline. Now, if you think in hospitality, and there's huge issues in hospitality, especially in London more so than anywhere else, because they can't get the staff in place, because the key members of staff that were running the hospitality sector in this country was the Eastern Europeans. And because of Brexit, that they've all kind of shied off coming into the country. I think there's some huge issues in terms of the staffing and the needs of businesses. I mean, we are struggling to recruit the right standard of staff for a 17th opening. And one other thing, maybe not everyone is kind of quite getting. Let's say that you launch a restaurant, Ammar, and let's say that we're opening Kai Kai, we launch on the 17th of May. And that would have been probably the only launch in the country at that moment. So you would have been able to recruit and advertise that, yes, there's a new opening, come and join. But actually, on the 17th, the entire country is launching new restaurants, effectively.
Yeah. And
they're gearing up their team. So when there's a nationwide restaurant launch, if you imagine, everyone is fighting for staff, like the good stuff. So that in itself is a massive challenge. But I think for us, from a strategic point of view, we've looked at it and we've said that, right, okay, we're just going to manage the numbers and only run on a particular capacity, as opposed to going full throttle without having the right numbers of staffing in place. Because it's just going to affect customer service if you do that.
And
so I think in hospitality
of,
generally, I
think people are just going to really struggle, aren't they?
I think the demand for dining out is going to be absolutely incredible after such a tough year. People just want to go and meet friends, and we've already had people coming from 250 miles away because they want to have the first memorable. Yeah. They will have the first memorable experience with their friends and outside dining at our particular restaurant. And people say, well, if you think about it, it's that you're going to remember the first restaurant that you go to after lockdown number 2, whatever it is, being locked down since last October. So it's gonna have to be memorable, and the operators have a responsibility to understanding that we're here to make memories. And that's what people are looking to do. They'll remember for sure the places that they've been. They'll remember for sure, eating out when it's raining. And we came across a situation that we're taking food out to some guests out in the courtyard, and we have to have an umbrella to cover the food that we're about to serve so that it doesn't the chips don't get rained on. I mean, I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I say to the team, just cherish these experiences, because hopefully we're never going to have to do these things ever again.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Jalf, and that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Is sort of being clear on.
I mean, we've got
the
people
differences, but there's lots of things that are going to remain, though, Jalf, right? Because if I look around here, right, regardless of the fact that people want to meet up and people are desperate to catch up, I genuinely believe that will be short-lived. I met with someone this week. So Rob came and seen me. We met up outside. We caught up, and it was great to do that. But both of us recognised that actually things have moved on now. The way we live, the way we do things. Of course, we're all desperate to get out and go and experience things that we haven't had the chance to do. The key thing now is how long is that going to last?
Well, of course, and let's hope that it does go back to normality and it does last. But I think, obviously everyone's going to have nerves and contingencies if it doesn't. But I think enjoy the moments when they arrive, because you never know how long those moments are gonna be there for.
Well, I think it's lovely that we're able to get out more. Is what I think.
The social interaction is so important for our well-being as human beings. If you don't have social interaction and you're not meeting different people in different spaces and different places, I think our lives and our minds are just not the same.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I think that definitely had a huge impact on society as well, and hopefully, we'll get some of that back.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, the critical thing is that we do get out and support as many local businesses as possible. I do hope that the sentiment has changed, whereby everybody is considering, sort of coming out and supporting local businesses and local people and those type of experiences. What about the leisure scene then, Jalf? What about across the river and things like that? Is that not been busy? Or?
No, I think it's been good, Ammar. It's been good. I think obviously it's all seated, and you have about 1,000 people that they've managed to accommodate, which is a decent number, but it's nothing like the 10,000 that used to visit, over a weekend. But it is better. I think they've got a great system where you go, and I think it's a system that you've experienced, I think, in Liverpool, where you go in, you've got an app, you order the food, you pay for it, and then it's we've got runners and they bring the food to the tables, and the business has been decent. Obviously, it's down to the weather plays such a critical part, but I think by the river they've got this brand new roof. They spent a lot of money on, a couple of 100,000 apparently, and that's made a big difference because it's just made it more weatherproof. So I think there is a lot of people there, and you'll see the queues at the weekends. But it's just a totally different experience, Ammar. I think it's not that hustle and bustle when you go to these festivals where you all walk in and then you find a table to sit, and you can go up to the venue and collect your own food and things like that. They just have to adapt a lot. But I think in essence, the experience is not that far away from what it used to be.
Which is amazing, right? I mean, if you think about...
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you think about everything that's happened and the fact that you can give an experience not too dissimilar to that was done previously, it's as good as it can be. I think I feel sorry for, the good old nightclubs. I mean, that's going to probably be right at the back end of everything by the time that industry gets reopened.
Yeah.
So I think they've got a long way to go.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And it's probably sad, especially for a lot of students and stuff, that they can't have those experiences, which is usually part of student life.
Yeah. Undoubtedly there is. And, I think that's why some of the leisure venues certainly will do and fare better in the first instance. But what was incredible was the 4,000 event held in Liverpool. It was great to see Liverpool leading the nation and leading globally. They had 4,000 people, and DJ Yusuf was DJing. Did you see that?
I heard of it, Ammar. I heard of it. Yeah, that's a good thing.
I think it's amazing. Is what it is. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the show, and Jalf, we'll be back next Friday, same time, same place. We'll be talking about clearly what's going on. We did launch the awards. It's great to see some nominations coming in for the Asian Business Connections Awards in association with Chai Events and Spice FM. And do visit the Asian Business Connections website and make a nomination for someone that you think is deserved for an award. Really, really keen to platform and make this the best year yet. We've potentially got Rishi coming along. Don't know that for certain, obviously, but certainly it's going to be an incredible event. And you'll be listening to Ammar and
Jalf,
live on our weekly radio
Community
show.
by the community.
Bye.